Me.
That's okay. And so for anyone else, so you just forgot to hit record at the beginning, that's all. It's okay. Not a problem.
Yeah, because I can see the NDP government continuing to do these me too clauses every time, because it saved them. It was there when the teachers were fighting to the end, or the nurses, they just kept, that was their thing, they just kept saying, but we can't, because we have a me too clause, and that would make us revisit this. So that worked well for them, so this is gonna continue to happen. And it just puts too many people out of the conversation.
Well, and I mean, I would feel, you know, I know that we tried to resolve this in July. That, if we go back and look at our first emails, they were in July, asking for clarification of the Me Too clause.
So I think for, being the rep, I think I'm going to get a hold of, the president, like the chair of BCPC, and just ask him to send me something about the conflict from his own perspective and his own writing. Because I'm gonna say, we're just confused. Because we're getting different conflicting information, like when we ask questions, they said there is no such thing as a Me Too other than.
All right, so the last time when we had ties, I went to, I'm gonna call her our knowledge keeper a little bit. I guess we do have a process in our board bylaws for dealing with the tie. And we didn't kick into it last time, partly because we knew we didn't have everybody here. We're in the same position again where we have a tie. And what our board bylaws say is that we continue to vote by secret ballot until we get a majority vote. Our bylaws, Robert's rules set no time limit on it. You just keep voting and voting and voting. Our board bylaws, I think it's we vote twice, and if there's a tie twice, then we draw names out of the hat. So we're learning procedure as we go. Yes.
If we're going to have another vote, Helen, is it possible to hear from the two candidates?
Yes.
So if that's the route we take, we're gonna do another vote, I do think we should speak to why we vote. I would say we didn't go ahead and follow the rules last time because we only had 6 and we knew 7 wouldn't have been a tie, so we could wait till 7 here again.
We could do that. I mean, it is an alternate position. We can move forward. It's the will of the majority. I will confess.
Can't imagine what we're, just to keep secret ballot, just to keep voting seems, well, it reminds me of, what do they call it in Survivor? Tribal council.
That's right.
Well,
insanity doing the same thing over with the same.
Well, I know, but I mean, I will admit that the last time I hadn't looked at the bylaws, and I have looked at the bylaws now. And so that's, our bylaws are a little bit different than Robert's rules, because Robert's rules just have you keeping on doing it. But our bylaws state that if it continues to draw lots. Interestingly enough, there's a huge discussion thing right now on the board chairs forum about, do you let people speak or don't you let people speak? And this is an area that many boards right now are revising within their policy and their bylaws. So we have in the past let people speak. So if our potential candidates would like to speak to, that would be great. So do you want to start, Nicole?
So is that what we're gonna do? We're gonna keep doing until we get there?
We're doing.
But we're gonna, you can make you can go ahead and tell us why you think you like.
But I think we have to agree to make the decision to not wait for the 7th person and keep voting tonight.
Is that what, it's the will of the group. We sort of set the precedent when we waited for the 7th position. The only thing it does is it holds up, it adds one more step to Leah, because typically what happens is once elections are held, she communicates with BC School Trustees Association and BCPC, who's into every single position. it just adds a step, but that's fine. I'm quite happy to hear what people have to say and do it either way. Bill?
I put a motion forward that we decide this tonight.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by David. All in favor?
No, we have a discussion.
We have to have a discussion. Thank you.
I have something to say.
Okay.
You know, Nicole has a really valid point. Last time, we didn't do the vote because we were missing one trustee. And like I said, in the 27 odd years I've been, that was the first time we've ever done an election without the whole board. And it was my suggestion that we wait for the other trustee. So now I'm starting to think, well, Madeline was in the air last time, Aaron is in the air this time. They're both valuable trustees, so and it's an alternate position. I know it does put it back a bit, but do we wait for
That's what the discussion's about, Nicole.
so that's what I'm,
You know, if I want to play, you know, if this was a very competitive board and a very political board, I could really argue this, because I think if we just kept voting last time with Madeline in the air, I would have got vice.
Yeah.
She wasn't here to vote for herself, but obviously, you know, so I too believe we should wait now for the 7th.
Anybody else like to speak to this? I'll actually read you 1.4 in our bylaws, just so everybody knows what it says. Following the swearing in of new trustees, the interim chairpersons shall call for nominations by secret ballot for the position of board chairperson. The election shall be conducted by secret ballot. Then it goes on to explain the process. The person receiving a clear majority shall be declared in that position. If no person receives a clear majority, further secret ballots shall be taken until the same is achieved, or should a tie occur, the election will be decided by the drawing of lots. So that is something within our bylaws, and we don't like it. We might want to change that. Some, as I said, some of the discussion that I'm listening to now, there are some boards that let candidates speak to why they would like a position. There are other boards that don't. In our script, the potential is there. One of the things that the big controversy is on right now is some boards had people that wanted to, if you put your name forward, you said your spiel, and then the other trustees could ask you questions. And there's a real concern about that asking questions piece becoming a bit of a
Could be, that could get ugly in a hurry.
Yeah.
So could we refer this part to the policy committee to look at this policy? Because they actually, something should be in there about maybe having how many board members could be at a vote, because again, with a very political board, you could plan this to happen at a board meeting when you only have 2 people.
Absolutely.
And only 4 people, and you know you're gonna get the votes, right? So
Yeah.
we should have something in our policy about these votes occurring when you have 6 to 7 people, or a full board, or.
Okay, so we'll make a note of that for policy committee. And now we have a motion on the floor to
I only have one of,
decide tonight.
I'm flip-flopping to tell you guys, so I need help here. Because on the other hand,
Yes, there was. It was.
Seconded,
Yeah.
sorry.
on the other hand, what if one of the other trustees aren't here next time? How
I'm
long
looking
do
at
we
the
let
date.
this go?
The 24th of January?
Yeah, like how long do we
Gotta
let
be
this
here.
go? So I'm flip-flopping either way, so.
I'm starting to flip-flop after listening to these ladies, because I'm going, at first it was kind of like, okay, it's the alternate, and okay, I'm listening to our protocol kind of thing and going, okay, but, you know, like Heidi just said there, I mean, not that we don't have a lot, not that we have a lot of people that don't show, but it's often we have one person missing. That makes sense. And the other thing is, I mean, we're a board that gets along, kind of thing. You know, and I'm not saying we should just be friends and vote, you know, kind of that way kind of thing, but, you know.
Bill, you want a hug?
I was gonna say 11.
After the meeting.
Okay.
Yes, I know. All right, David.
Could we do this by email?
We talked about this when Aaron knew,
Yeah.
right?
Because
But,
where I'm going is, we are becoming more and more remote. I sit on boards that we don't meet at all. So, a lot of this stuff is via email.
We did address this with Aaron, go ahead.
we did address it with Aaron, and Aaron asked about, well, could I give somebody my proxy? Well, there's nothing in our bylaws with a provision for proxy.
But yet, what about the fact that you asked Madeline when she wasn't gonna be here last time if she wanted to put her name forward for positions? Is that kind of like her giving you her proxy to do that?
No. Sorry, that
Oh,
was
somebody-
if her name was, if she was nominated, we gave a list of nominations that they would let their name stand for.
is
So
how
it
we
wasn't,
did
a-
that.
but she didn't get to vote.
Because they would have had to otherwise check back with me,
Yeah.
to let your name stand, and that wasn't here.
That was why I did that. I'm learning things,
I'm just,
yeah.
what are your thoughts?
I would think
What are your
this
thoughts
would-
on the email?
If there's nothing against it, yeah, instead of waiting until January 24th, that's our next board meeting, we could do this by vote. 7 people could vote on this. No?
We could do a special board meeting too, a special Zoom meeting, single topic, special Zoom.
Yeah.
At a time that all 7 of us could be there. But we do have a motion on the floor. The person that put the motion on is actually just spoken against the motion.
Let's just take the vote, though, maybe we'll get an
Yeah,
answer.
let's take the vote. So do we do this now? Is the vote. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimously defeated. So we will look to do a special board meeting by Zoom as soon as possible. And queue it up with Aaron, and we'll do it as quickly as we can.
Now, is there anything in the policy that next time when we do this, are we calling for nominations all over again, or will it just be the same 2 people? Because this time it was a new person came forward, right? So it's not
Yeah.
even the same vote as it was last time.
It's
So next time, could David throw his hat in that ring?
From staff perspective, there's only actually 2 that are not in conflict. You and Madeline. So it's
Yeah,
almost.
because I can't throw my name in because I'm already.
Right.
Your question's a good one.
Right.
Staff also, by the way, have to take some ownership here. Clearly, we need to do a bit more research into this as well, so my apologies for that. But there are only 2 trustees who are not in conflict, and so I don't see that as being an obstacle to whatever you decide.
Okay.
So I think what we'll do is we'll set up a special board meeting via Zoom as soon as possible to get it resolved so that it's resolved.
I'm available between 10:15 and 10:30 Thursday, and Friday between 2:30 and 2:48.
I'll do it,
30
I could
seconds.
do a Tim Bennett and do a doodle poll, but we'll come up with the time. It's Aaron who's probably still in the air, and in New Orleans, that's the one that's going to be difficult. I need a motion to destroy the ballots, please. Moved by David, seconded by Bill. All in favor? Ballots destroyed. Okay, we do not have any presentations and delegations. Remind me to talk to you about presentations and delegations, because I got hit up again from some. Okay, trustee input and celebrations, and for those of you that attended Academy, I sent out something that said we would bring back something about Academy, and we'll do that under the BCSDA report. So you can say you went to Academy, but don't go beyond that. Okay, trustee Campbell.
Oh, that's good because I didn't attend the Basic Academy.
We missed you.
But I did go to the Taylor School when Rick Leaf was there doing a week's presentation. And at his final assembly, I did go and attend and watch the kids. And I went to the NPAA supper, which was really nice. I enjoyed it immensely. I thought they did a great job. And it was nice to talk to some of our principals and vice principals that we haven't been able to be in touch with as much. So I really did enjoy that. And then on Saturday, I also attended the Taylor School, the grade 5-6 class. they did a food bank and a toy drive. So I went and attended that as well. And one of the counselors from Taylor was there, and he works for Alaska Highway. And so Dave was putting it in Alaska Highway. So him and I had quite a conversation about what that school is really getting into, the school spirit and how good they're doing in the community. And I think that's all I did this last little bit. I've seen the principal at Taylor so often. She said if I wanted to see her on Sunday, I had to come to her house. She wasn't going out.
Trustee Gillis.
Elementary Academy. We wrapped up the middle school volleyball with the team against the senior girl volleyball. My coaching career is over for now. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And this week I'm going to volunteer. I'm helping at the pancake breakfast that the school always puts on the last day of school, and then helping in the afternoon make known. So you'll hear all about that afterwards. Kids doing grass would be just as annoying as kids playing volleyball.
kids.
No, I missed it that face.
Vice Chair Lehman.
That was a great conversation.
Way back when I attended the labor management meeting. At the end of the month, the SUPAC. Yeah, you were, was at the academy. Did attend the NPA dinner as well as the Jingle and Bingle. So those were the fun-fed meetings. And I was at the Clearview Park this afternoon, and there was an initial bargaining meeting last week that Ida was present as well.
Trustee Scott
I
Morrissey.
was at the PAC meeting at Buick Creek. Enjoyed that. Norbert, one of the things gal was passing the torch, I think. He's done a really good feel for the community. I'd be quite so long, turned quite long.
Alrighty,
Mr. Snow.
so I've been over to the high school and ELC and Ambrose to make visits. I touched base with my new school, sent an email, and got a response back from him. I'm gonna go and see him this week. Went down to the academy, made some really good contacts. We'll talk about that later. Went to the supper at MPAA. Yes, the city event that they had, the gathering there. Actually, we had a very good conversation with I might be wrong, the president from the college. Yeah, and he wants to meet with us.
Who was that?
Brian?
I can't.
I have his card at home.
I have his card too,
Yeah.
and I don't know how to attempt to say his last name.
Yeah. But very, very nice gentleman. And we've kind of agreed to meet before the snow is gone. He was all in favor of doing that. So, and that was a comment that we made a few times to each other, that we'd meet before the snow was gone. He didn't want to wait forever. Other than that, just been poking at it.
Okay, thank you. So,
Oh, sorry. And I just joined a new committee, elections committee. And I had my first, yes, and I had my first meeting with that today.
So can I ask you a question with that? Is it about kind of like a nominate, like you're trying to get people to run?
So
Diverse?
he was kind of, they were gathering questions from us, but a lot of it is to get people to run. One example that was given was an area, northwest kind of area, where there's 3 areas like a Hudson's Hope, like a Taylor, that are outside kind of thing. And there's 3 of them and they all get acclaimed. So they're trying to say, let's get people running.
Okay.
Right, so yes, we like who's in there, but let's have actual, races kind of thing. Okay. And also to let people know, what is involved kind of thing. And then our other thing is that we talked about today was, which is going to be difficult because it's difficult through the whole province, the whole country usually, is to encourage more people to get out and vote.
You figure that out. Multi-millionaire.
So I'm just gonna say that I've been at meetings ad nauseum between Northeast Roundtable, Public Health, Labor Management, Joint Health and Safety. I have attended a couple of things for the Climate Working Group. Very much enjoyed the MPA supper, and the city mixer was great. And I'm gonna get teary on this next one because I don't know. I've been in schools, and even though all this stuff is going on, schools are still happy places with all the traditional Christmas decorations up, and there's still the same joy. And on Saturday, I think in agreement with the third-party user agreement, the Retired Teachers Association held their luncheon at Finch. And I was the young one there. Being in this room with people who's, throughout my teaching career, all I heard was their names, and I was suddenly putting some names and faces together with the legends was really quite touching. And there was one teacher there that endured my son in grade 2, and endured is the appropriate word. And she had not set foot in Finch for 23 years since she retired. And this was a really big moment for her to be back in the school. And I had the power of knowing the school and the keys for the school at that point in time shared to do this. And she asked if she could go and visit her old classroom. And what existing in the system, just took for granted, she was so amazed at the variation in the way the desks were arranged, in the millwork in the schools, and how much more well organized it was. And there was such excitement and joy in being in this old space, and some of the things that I didn't even see as wonderful, she saw as absolutely wonderful. And to add to the power of the moment, there was another person that I worked with at Finch that was with me that started her teaching career after being a student teacher in this particular lady's classroom. So when you added up the years of experience in that room and all of the connections, it was just really quite powerful. And things that you didn't even recognize were a carrier or a tradition. I'm still glad to see that, and I'm glad to see that, and look at this and look at that. So for her to see the school after 23 years and through her eye, we are doing a good job, and she was so excited to see all the evidence of ongoing community support and things like that. So it was fun, and I was young.
You still are.
Yeah, right. So let's move on to 6.0, the minutes of the regular board meeting of November the 15th, pages 6 to 14 in your package. Oh, yeah. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, for these minutes? Moved by Ida, seconded by Bill. another couple more minutes. Right. Any errors or omissions that people have noticed? All in favor then of those minutes? Carried. Business arising from the minutes. Take a look at our action items.
Look farther on with the vote.
And we did move the discussion of school liaisons till November 29th. And Bill, you mentioned your new school. I haven't actually communicated with schools about that yet. I'll send something out in January, those changes, just because to send something out this last week is it just doesn't make any sense. So I'll put it out in January. All right. Human Resources Secretary Tisha will release a confidentiality key for the Human Resources report. And business arising.
You'll see that, I contacted BCPC and they thought that, I gave them what we currently have and then more detailed, and they said the more detailed version would, perhaps give out more information, so they said to stay with the format we have, so. It was to break it down by, so the way it's like new hires, resignations, things like that. If we break it down by position, you might have an idea who we're speaking to, if it's broken out by position. So they said to stick with the document that we have right now. Because people could potentially guess who it is.
But
For the QP, it's the one that's in my report. In my report.
what we were talking about, especially when we were moving up to thinking about vaccination policy, would be a better knowledge. When Stephen gives his report, we know it's all about teachers. But when your custodian, your bus drivers, and your EAs are all lumped into one category in Angela's report, and then you're sitting at labor management meeting or you're here or there and you're hearing of all of these shortages, the picture of what's happening out there doesn't come to the board table. So it does mean that maybe what we need to do is to say to Angela, well, we might ask you some questions related to that report. And about, is there one employee group that's represented, has had more turnover this month, or is there a department that you're worried about with vacancies? Because I think that's the information we were really looking for out of that report, was a broader understanding of our workforce and turnover in our workforce and where our pinch points are in terms of ongoing vacancies and hiring. And that was what we were looking for that report to do. But if BCPC says that we can't do it that way, then if we have those questions as trustees, then.
But I could maybe put a little wording to it so that we can identify potentially pinch points, things like that, without disclosing what group.
Yeah, and
this month we had a shortage here.
Yeah, I think that was the information people were looking for in a more detailed report. When you hear at labor management that there's only been 3 days that we weren't fully staffed, well, where are we? Bill?
I mean, like myself, I don't know why I do it, but I look at the job postings for the school board. So it's quite obvious that if I look and see that there's 5 bus driver postings, then I'm going, ooh, not good. Okay? If I look and see there's 5 teacher postings, well, there's only
That's awesome, because we need
You know, but I'm saying there's, 290 whatever teachers, or I don't know how many there are right now.
Over 300.
300 say, right?
300.
Yeah, and there's 40 bus drivers or so? 60? Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Then I can go, if there's 5 bus drivers, that's a big deal. If I go, there's 5 teachers, yeah, that's not good, but it's not, you know what I mean? So that's when I kind of ask, when I do ask and I go, are we short on this or this? That's kind of how I come up with that question kind of thing, is I do look there like once a week, once a month, or once every 2 weeks, whatever, and just to see what we're lacking.
Could I suggest that in addition to emerging trends that the ST can identify of interest, that questions can also drive, as the chair suggests, some of the information for after that as well?
Ida?
And I think that it would be important, and I have that information from when I did those appreciation bars, but I was totally amazed at actually how many bus drivers we hire. So if we're looking for 5, because we're only thinking of the routes as trustees, but they have 2 or 3 drivers for some routes, and they have alternates. I think it was something like 89 bus drivers.
Yeah, we have.
For the district. So it really amazed me when I was doing that, because I got all the names and I thought, yeah, I was like Bill thinking, oh, we only have about 40 drivers, but no. So when you see the listings, so we should get that information too.
This is off subject, but at that meeting, it sounded like every district around our table was having staffing issues at all levels. Should we not collectively, as multiple districts, be encouraging our students to come through to pick education as a and really push it that way? Because we need to collectively solve this problem, not one district at a time.
Since I've been on, and I'm not that long, but still, all those areas, when we meet in like the Northern Interior branch, they all say, we're all lacking. There's very few times where they say, we're full. We have everybody.
There was nobody in that room.
No,
Nobody in that room was anywhere near.
I think-
We were better than some of them.
But the thing is, we're competing for the same people too, in some of those, some of them kind of
Well,
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
we do that.
That's the problem.
We're competing for
Yeah.
employees here too. But, we need to drive our students coming out of, at the graduation level, to pick education.
Yeah, that could be a further conversation another point in time. Other action item, on page 12 of the minutes, preamble for the COVID policy development. I didn't get it done. But the policy was up there, and probably we will revisit that and it will get done. Okay. All right. Any other action items related to that we need to worry about? Okay. So moving on to item number 7, approval of excerpts of the regular board meeting of October the 18th. A single page. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Nicole, seconded by Bill. Give you a minute to look at it, and then we'll see if there's any errors or omissions. All in favor? Announcements and reminders. Are there any additions or changes to this list? Bill?
I'm not seeing, I'm going back to them now, but I'm not seeing the NIV in Prince George. listed there.
Yeah, and do I have the date for that? I think
February 4th.
it was
Yeah,
circulated.
it's not in front of me, but I thought it was the first week of February,
It's
Friday, Saturday.
Friday, Saturday. Sorry, Lee, I missed this. February 4th and 5th is the NIB AGM. Thanks, Bill. That's February 4th and 5th, is what I have in my date book.
Is that going to be in person?
It's supposed to be in person at this point.
You want to have us see the version of it?
I don't know. Last time they did have some hybrid models because the roads and people couldn't get into it, but I can check with Nate. I'll check with Nadine and see when she's going to start to send some information out about it. She did mention it.
If you could check the time when they're thinking of starting.
Yeah.
So we know if we go down the night before or not, kind of thing.
Okay. I Nadine check. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for catching that, Bill. Any other additions or changes?
Well, just on that NIB conversation, if you're gonna check in with Nadine, will you just, I think I know the answer, I think we figured it out, but February is a terrible time to drive to Prince George. I was trying to think, they call it the spring AGM, but it's February. And it must be because we have to get our resolutions in for AGM, okay? So we have to have it then. Okay,
There's always part of the MIB that concentrates on that.
Yeah, okay, because that, it is a terrible time to everybody's traveling, right? And people from the west, but if that's why, then that's why, I guess, it's been discussed. Okay.
Okay, moving on to senior staff reports, the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Helen. Item number 1 under HR, there's that activity reports. Item number 2, HR support update, just to let the trustees and public know that we've got some support plans in place. We were not able to fill the exact same position with someone else as that employee is off. And so we brought in some extra support. Ray Asai is going to be kind of casual relief, looking after a lot of the career fairs and follow-up around the interviews. And so he's going to relieve Wade of some of that, those responsibilities. I've stepped into to be a member of the bargaining team to just support Wade, but he continues to be the spokesperson and the lead in terms of the bargaining. And we have Angela and Wade who are supporting on the QP side along with Colleen. And Dina, of course, has taken on more and more responsibilities each year in terms of some of that follow-up and recruitment piece as well. So we do have a support plan in place, and we feel it is the best way to move forward at this point. And looking forward to that employee returning.
That's like human resources.
Excuse me?
You're talking about for human resources?
Yes.
Okay. That's it. Yeah.
Under education, draw your attention to my report on the screen there, Leah. And so as per our framework, we continue, it's been harder to find days, I have to admit, to bring everybody together. But we've been working with Shelley Moore for the last couple of years, but more directly this year. And this particular graphic is just a way that we're trying to approach a way to build some key strategies and resources as part of a universal toolkit at the classroom level. And so we found this work to be, this graphic, this framework to be particularly helpful. And we continue to bring in our principals, vice principals, we'll be bringing in teachers as well to talk about what are these best strategies and resources consistently across the district. And to further kind of explain that work, you've probably seen or heard about this pyramid in terms of, if you look at the yellow, we call that a secondary intervention, and that's where we have our school-based team. We have people like our counselors or administration all supporting some of the more issues that come out of the classroom that need extra support. The very top there is the red, where, you know, Keith McGilvery is probably involved, personnel from learning services, where we have a real team wrapping around a specific student for some very intense issues. But what we're trying to develop in the green are those key strategies and resources that are consistent across the district, and we're going to be pulling in different groups of teachers, other staff throughout the next couple of years to build that. Under human and social development, really kind of exciting to recognize that even during these busy times, we have a couple of schools that have been accepted their registration to be part of Healthy Schools Initiative, Baldonnel and Presbyterian. That involves a bit of a commitment in terms of the staff and what they do in order to be sort of certified at the end. And there's some information that explains that. It's a 4-step process. Under skills and development, please check out the newsletter produced by our Swiss and the careers department there, Principal Brian Campbell. And we recently had a presentation to our principals, vice principals by the VP of Technology Education and some of the great apps that are available on all the iPads that are provided to the grade 6 students. These two particular apps, Chatterpix and Book Creator, really allow for a creative approach to literacy. It also allows students to do things like speech to text, as well as reading out the text that they've created. So it allows all students to be engaged in the activity, and that's the universal design for learning approach that's talked about in this introduction. If trustees are interested, we can certainly get a demo, as that was well received when it was presented to the principals and vice principals as well. Under operations and HR, sort of this next level is that Carlene, Director of Instruction, is working to bring together a cross-section of personnel across the district in terms of some more formalized training and programming to make our sort of wellness and outreach to staff as effective as possible. Under Truth and Reconciliation, a couple of our employees, along with Councillor Gary Oker, will be attending a conference in Victoria around how to bring Indigenous music into part of our music education and have that perspective represented as part of our music education as well. So we're excited about that too. And finally, encourage trustees to look through some of the great celebrations around the district. Take 3 in December. We've got Bert Ambrose profile. They produced some drawings for SGA promo. We also have Robert Ogilvie, who had Rick Leaf there, and there's the video you saw at the last Committee of the Whole. And Alan Holland talks about a buddy program with the ELC. Please check out those programs in further detail. And finally, Burt Bowes Middle School student Austin McGregor plays 15th for juvenile boys and 18th for junior boys at the BC Cross Country Running Zone, so congratulations to him. And Burt Bowes also had a visit by Bo Hedges, and he's sort of a local superstar in terms of the Paralympic Games and involved for many years. So he was speaking to the students, and that was very well received. Continuing on, item number 2 under education, I will be asking the board, you have an attachment in your documents. As was previously discussed, SD60 has to make a decision tonight on whether or not to proceed with an application to be a provincial online school provider. That information is in your packet. Staff's recommendation, and we'll be looking for a motion tonight, is to approve the application process. In reading through there and discussing this with our key administration, the Key Learning Center administration, this is in fact the only way we would be able to proceed to offer that variety of services, both in-house as well as with some of the independent school programs. And so staff are asking that trustees pass that motion tonight. Number 3, out of district sports field trips, please see the attachments there in terms of the details of those trips. And finally, number 4, we will need to bring out also a separate motion to approve the community coaches. And that is my report.
And I have a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by David, seconded by Bill. There are a number of items to pull out for motions. We'll pull those out after any further discussion related to Stephen's report.
Could I have a look at those demos, apps?
Absolutely.
Please?
Yep.
That'd be great.
Sure.
Leah, if you could zoom out. Poor Michelle probably doesn't want to stare at my mug. There we go. Thank you.
I think that whatever we need to do to keep our distance learning program or our online learning program as viable as possible, we do. Any other discussion related to Stephen's report?
Don't be shy, though.
I have a question here. Yeah, about the community coaches.
Okay.
Okay? And first I want to ask about the process. I haven't had a lot of involvement in elementary sports kind of thing. So is it, you coach elementary sports, right? Do we know, I think? Is it who goes there, plays? Or is it, we can take 12 kids and if 20 show up, we take 12?
Most times, I
Yeah,
can
no,
speak
go
to
ahead.
that, most times, most elementary schools try and field as many teams as they can if they can get coaches. I mean, that's typically what you will find.
What's the, if you don't mind me asking, what's the
Oh.
reason, the reason behind the question?
And it's nothing against any the person at all, but I'm just wondering if this means, my son or daughter, child, it doesn't say, will go to the school if they make the basketball team. But if they don't, they won't go back to, they'll keep homeschooling kind of thing. Right?
Well, Stephen and I have already discussed it. It was unfortunate the way that that was added to the package. I don't think that that's intended at all. And what you may see is in the future, a standard template. Am I speaking out of turn?
Not at all.
Bringing coaches over, because basically that piece of information wasn't for our consumption.
So in terms of the process for
Yeah.
coaches, none of that has changed?
Yeah.
Your question around the implications.
Yeah,
of
I mean, I want all the
coaches
kids that no offense to our homeschooling programs and stuff, but I want all the kids that we can attending our schools kind of thing. So I mean,
So our approval process for community coaches has nothing to do with the other piece that was attached to that email. So my apologies for that being included, but it has nothing to do with what our regular process is for community coaches.
What is our regular process? Criminal
That the
record,
board approves them.
but they've had a criminal record check, driver's abstract.
Any other information is superfluous.
We usually like some assurance that they have an affinity for working with children.
But I think if you ask all the girls, they're like.
I don't even know how to frame that.
Anyways,
Any other?
so any other discussion related to Stephen's report?
no, I mean, the key learning center case there, I mean, that's we need it.
Sean and Angela and Jared and Norbert and myself have and colleagues around the province have asked as many pertinent questions as they could. They got a lot of good information back, and they really are asking you to pass this so that they can continue the way they are.
I'm gonna go back to community coaches for a minute. Over the years and how I've made, like a decision on these community coaches is normally it's the school that sends the names to us, and they usually know their community, their school communities. So that's a big part of when I'm looking at this. So I just wanted to put that forward that, that it's not, like, I think, does not the principal of the school have to put this name forward? It can't, like, if I want to be a coach somewhere, I couldn't just come and say I want to be a coach.
You're absolutely right. It comes from the principal and it comes to us. It's just that the way that we gather that information, we just need to present it in a different way. So that there is not information that's not relevant to that approval. That's the way to say it.
I guess it's one of those things I've just been saying yes to for 3 years, not really understanding, but yeah. I assume when they come to me, they've done the criminal record check, the principal's in favor of this person. So, yeah, I'm just nodding my head, but I don't know when I would say no, right? Like, I'm not sure of the like what, I guess we have to, because we're a board, so we have to say yes, but I'm assuming it would never have come to our table if it was you guys should not, this person, right?
Staff would not bring it forward if that were the case. Your question is around the history of that coming to the board,
Yeah.
and I have to admit, that's just it's always been done this way.
Yeah.
This is a governance piece, less similar to our out of district field trips, that the board exercises governance in those particular matters.
And one of the things is in policy, you may have had a community coach, but you still had to have a staff sponsor. And when I wrote a letter, if I had a community coach, I would indicate who the staff sponsor was as well. So Stephen and I talked about this, and there may be a template or some information that comes back. You'll notice when you look at North Pieces or the out-of-district sports field trips, we get the name of the coach, the chaperone, and the locations, and we get the information as to who's a teacher and who's a parent on it. So it may be that for community coaches, a similar template gets developed that gives us some of that kind of information.
Well, it was about capturing the right information, not a whole bunch of extra unnecessary information.
Yeah.
Again, I'll say this is nothing to do with this person kind of thing. But unfortunately, because I've been involved with so many sports in town, I know of 2, 3 hockey coaches, for example, and 2 soccer coaches that are barred from coaching in town, kind of thing. So if I ever seen one of those names come up, I'd be like, kind of thing. Hey, so I mean, that's kind of why it's a good idea if we see them. Because I mean, the principal in Upper Pine or Presbyterian, might not know that they can't coach in Fort St. John, because, you know, just the distance and everything, or Hudson's Hope kind of thing, and one of us could be sitting there, you know, Helen from being involved in schools and that, or son playing hockey could go, whoa, kind of thing. So I mean, it's a good idea to bring it forward.
We'll continue to do so.
All right, all in favor of accepting Stephen's report? So out of Stephen's report, the first thing that I need a motion for is for the Key Learning Center to move forward with the interest, moved by David, seconded by Bill. I'm just working on the wording for Leah. The Key Learning Center to move
There's a
forward.
recommended motion there.
Is there?
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing it.
Under number 2, in my report, sorry.
In your report.
In my report, there's a recommended motion.
Okay, so all in favor of the recommended motion in Stephen's report?
I'll read it, that the Board of Education of School District 60 endorse the district application to become a provincial online learning school provider.
Okay, I missed it, I moved that page out of here. Okay, so that's the first one. All in favor? Done. Okay, out of district sports field trips,
I'll make the motion as written in the report.
thank you. Seconded by Ida. All in favor? And I need a motion for not just the community coaches for Upper Pine. We need to reference Bird Ambrose as well, because that was added.
Yeah, you bet.
So could I have a motion that we approve the community coaches for both Upper Pine and Bird Ambrose as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Nicole, seconded by Ida. All in favor? Moving on then to the Secretary Treasurer's report.
Okay, we have it in the package, we have an attachment for the finance update to November 30th, 2021. The upper halfway gym plans prepared by the architect and the human resource support staff summary. And that is my report.
All right, can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Bill, seconded by Madeline. There's no items for motions. All right, let's take a look then at discussion. We'll start with the we'll start with the finance update till November 30th. Any questions related to the financial update?
It's everyone's favorite topic, don't be shy.
I guess one of the things that I've been wondering about is where we're going to end up with, and it might not be in here, the concept of sick leave, whether that's going to end up being an area that we're overextended in because we have more people absent, and we've got quarantine times and exposure times. I'm just wondering how that is looking.
The additional cost for sick leave. I am working on something right now, so I can bring that to the meeting in January on those items specifically.
Well, we've got substitutes and TOCs, right? So obviously we've got more TOC days on the go.
Yes.
But we don't, when we look at this, know exactly what's going on for casual support staff. For
In the
replacement.
HR report?
No,
in
the finance part.
Oh, shoot.
The sorry, where I should take, where it says TOCs, that does have both
Okay.
casuals and TOCs in there, so that should be taken out.
Okay, so
Sorry.
that's okay. I was just wondering what it was, but it's higher. Okay. Any other questions besides mine for the financial report?
I have a question for all of you. Is what would you like to see? So I've gone back a couple of years and I've looked at the reports, and this is the report that has been given to the board. And I would like to give you what you would find meaningful. These numbers have meaning for me. I don't necessarily know if they have much meaning for you. So what would you like to see?
Myself, I skim the breakdowns.
Yeah.
I concentrate on the bottom number and look and would like to see always a positive number.
Are we heading in the right direction? I'm in the wrong direction.
Yeah, the number definitely is,
I think she means what type of format would you like to see, not what numbers.
format and yeah, I can't give you a positive number because that would be me cooking the books, and we don't want that. So the number is representative of what's happening. But yeah, format wise, what would provide you with more information, I guess?
Well,
And we don't have to discuss it we don't have to talk about it here. You could just email me and I could make it happen for the next meeting, but we could discuss it here too.
Yeah, the one thing I do like
Yes.
to keep it up, and that is the sidebar too, that the explanation
Yeah.
part is very helpful, so I like that.
all right.
I do like the fact that we have the percentages in there of where we're at.
There was something that caused you concern? Is there something on there that?
Oh, just draw attention to
That
it.
we should be drawing attention to?
Okay,
Keep a look, keep an eye on, that kind of, you know the numbers better than we do, way better. That's something that's down the road, it's not gonna play well.
All right, so feedback to, and that's an action item for everybody, feedback to Angela about what you'd like to see in a financial report, what's good about this format, and if there's any other changes you want.
and you're not gonna hurt my feelings, so. Yeah. Bring whatever you
Upper Halfway Elementary Gym Edition. Any questions related to where we're at with that? David?
Okay, so in our meeting, there was going to be next to, I believe where the kitchen is there any way to pull that up? Can we pull that up?
Oh, the upper halfway. Are you speaking to the servery that's there?
Yeah, right next to it, there was gonna be a place for changing, and there's nothing there.
You mean the skate changing?
Skate change room.
Okay,
Uh,
I can speak to that.
It makes sense to do it now than later if we
We're
were gonna
not-
do that.
We weren't actually going to build it into the new facility. We were going to put an access point in the school because they're currently using,
Yep, they're using this one down on the bottom here, if we can pull it up. It means walking all the way around the gym.
Show you this, one moment, please. I got it. Yeah, actually, I just pulled it up from something that Chad shared with me, so I think I got it a couple different ways. One moment. Okay, so one moment here, I'll try to make this better.
That's fine. So it was going to be right here. Right now, they're using this one right here.
No, right now we're using the, yeah.
It's going right here. That's how they're going to access. And this wouldn't, because their playground will be over here.
Okay.
So better to have it here and they can walk
Okay,
out
all
to
right,
the.
as long as
yeah.
there's something. Okay, perfect, thank you.
So this is what is currently in place. Yeah, and presented, given to, the ministry has seen copies of this, and they're happy with the structure. Now, it's gone to Jim Bush for costing, and I got an update on Friday that they are concerned about the costs because they're escalating. And Jim Bush is having difficulty determining the costs, so that's where we're at with that. Because Jim Bush is, he does, now that we have an actual structure, now he's going to put numbers to that structure, and he's struggling, and we're not the only district he's struggling with. He's struggling in southern BC, northern BC to put numbers just because of the, the
Do what?
movement up and movement down, mostly movement up
Of what?
of the cost of construction.
Okay.
Yeah, and materials and the timeline for materials and things like that.
They're still going to go with the prefab concrete standard?
That is the goal, yeah.
Okay, good. No, that's very good. Labor, in our advantage.
Yeah.
So that is probably just my brain not retaining everything. Is Peace River Regional District still involved in any way?
Yeah, we just reached out to Karen, and we're going to be applying for a grant for, actually, we're not going to apply for a grant. The community in Upper Halfway is going to apply for it. And that will be for equipment, tables, chairs to make this community hall, as well as equipment for the students.
But Karen was talking about a great deal more than just chairs and tables. So
Well, I don't know, I've looked through the minutes and that's, I'm not, are you sure it was Karen or was it Upper Halfway then?
No, it was both Karen and Upper Halfway.
And halfway. And I'm sorry, his first name I cannot remember, but I hear it.
Dale, I think it was, but
Something like that.
He's
no longer there. I
The
think
band
I just-
manager. It's an Italian gentleman that's,
So we are asking from the Halfway First Nations to provide all the equipment for the servery, all of which is significant.
Okay.
And actually, the equipment for the tables, chairs, risers, it's going to be a significant cost that they'll be applying for from the regional district.
and stands.
Karen really wanted something.
Yeah, there will be a significant contribution.
Well, and I guess I'm thinking back to the meetings, and the meetings were that we thought we would be able to get funding for a gym, but we wouldn't be able to get funding for what you're calling the server in the kitchen. So when we initially talked with the regional district and the Halfway River First Nation, that was where we were talking about support from them, because we thought we would need support in that area because we wouldn't get it from.
Yeah, and we added the servery into our current construction plans.
Okay.
So what the ask is from the Peace River Regional District is for the equipment, and then we have contacted the band manager, but we haven't met with him yet about, because
Brand new.
he's new, so now we are kind of back to square one in that scenario.
Okay.
So, and our ask is of the servery, so we do have to do some work around the costing and what we're asking for, and what they want the kitchen to look like, so.
Go ahead, Bill.
Angela, is it okay if I go talk to Brendan at Canadian Tire? He, the manager now, he organizes Jumpstart there,
Okay.
okay? And I know kids sport only does like seasons for kids and stuff, like they'll do like hockey season or something. But to see if jump sport will donate like equipment. Because I'm guessing we're gonna need hockey nets. Be nice to have some extra hockey skates, sticks, pucks, anything like that. So if they do that, then I could arrange something where we could meet with them, kind of thing. But if they're not just kids specific and season specific kind
Yeah,
of thing,
they're
where
donate.
that's what kids sport is. But could they just donate to that kind of thing? I'll drop in and see them.
I was just trying to find the link, but I can't. So that was why I was thinking community kitchen. So
I
as
think-
long as,
I think it was on the table because they would have, but they would have been, had to be in a referendum and all that.
Referendum,
Yeah.
yeah,
and this way they don't have
and
to.
this way they don't have to, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And they have a grant writer who can write the grants, so it's actually quite should work out quite
Right. Is that it for your report, Maria?
well. And the support staff.
And then the support staff summary. All right. Can I call the question, all in favor of accepting the report? Moving on to 10.0, reports of the regular committee of the whole meeting, November the 29th, which is pages 19 to 20 in your package. Okay. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Nicole, seconded by Bill. Any errors or omissions? I did, I can do that. All right, all in favor? Okay, business arising from the minutes. I did circulate to you, what I had from Sharon, and I thought it was the PAC president, but it wasn't the DPAC contact. So I did send that out to you via email. And if you need to figure out who the PAC president is for any schools, you should be able to go through your DPAC contact. I thought it was PAC chairs that I had, but it wasn't when I went back and looked. I think everything else. Is there any other business that you'll see arising from those minutes? Moving on then to policy committee. Policy committee meeting notes were an attachment to the agenda. Any questions related to those minutes? do this. It's in there? Okay. Okay.
So we'll double check.
All right, let's take a look at policy 7006, and this is which is the district fleet vehicle use. This is a new policy, and so what we would need is, it would just be a person, a firster. That's not a word, but that's what comes to mind on this at this point in time. Are there any questions related to this? Because the process is now is that we'll go out for notice of motion and come back to us after the field has had a chance to look at it. And then we would have a chance to revise it further should there be any. So,
Ellen, I remember now and can confirm that the passenger manifest list is in there
okay,
now to be shared with the driver as well as the transportation supervisor.
okay, thank you. When I read it,
Yeah,
I
I
must
didn't
have
think
skimmed.
that,
All right, so who would like to move the district fleet vehicle use policy?
The first one is David. I'm assuming driver's abstract has to be done. Does.
And the fleet?
Okay, so moved by David. Curricular and extracurricular field trips.
So this is where the passenger manifest was.
Yeah. And passenger manifest came up at the labor management meeting, and then the policy committee meeting was right after that. So we were able to add in the concept of what was desired there in terms of a passenger manifest. Right. Are there any questions related to that policy? And it's just going out for notice of motion. Right, could I please have someone move that this go for notice of motion, moved by Madeline, that policy 2005, curricular and extracurricular trips go out for notice of motion. Moving on to policy 4018, respectful workplace and harassment prevention.
I'll move that this goes out for notice of motion.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. I'm still not sure I'm grooving on the title. I know we changed it and why we changed it. But the way it goes together, it looks like we're creating a respectful workplace. Yeah,
For harassment.
for harassment, yeah. Well, I haven't come up with it, and I know we talked about it in the meeting, but I don't know that that says what we want it to say.
Well, perhaps harassment prevention.
So, I
and,
mean, it
respectful
could be,
workplace.
it could be creation of a respectful workplace. I don't know. I can't remember, do you remember what it was before?
Part of it was that WorkSafe BC, to be able to see a direct title related to harassment prevention. That
Okay.
would be in our favor.
Right. I'll have to
Doesn't
probably-
prevent us from leaving as is, and coming back for when
Yeah,
it's
I
approved.
just, I
with
don't
an
know, when
adjustment.
I mean, at the time at the policy committee meeting, it made sense, but when I just looked at it now,
Yeah.
I'm going, does
Well,
it say
flip
what
those
we
two
wanted
words,
it to?
preventing harassment and preventing for harassment.
Yeah, maybe
Word
just
prevention.
harassment prevention and respectful workplace.
Yeah, I think.
And
it's
development
harassment
of-
prevention. I
Yeah.
think if harassment prevention was first and respectful workplace, it would sound a lot better.
And harassment prevention and,
And respectful workplace.
okay. So we'll flip that around. Right. Other reports. BCSTA Trustee Academy report out, and my suggestion was that people comment on 1 to 3 items that resonated with them from Academy. And I'm happy to have somebody volunteer to go first. Bill?
All right, so definitely bringing forward a positive to start with. Talking to Tim from Prince George, I told some of you guys that were there already, that he made me aware that the executive for the BC Trustee Association, when they look at the boards around the province and to see who's having difficulties and everything, we and Cornell are on the bottom of the list constantly.
That's a good place to be.
Yes.
Make that, yeah.
Yes. Right, the needs ones are up here,
Yeah.
and we're constantly down the bottom, kind of thing. Right, he said if they could, they would bring our name up in other districts and tell them to, look at us, kind of thing. And it's been like that for a while, he said, not just us. Okay. Myself, I got to connect with Cheryl down there from Prince George. And when I go down, that's why I asked what the NIB, because when we go down there, I'm going a day early. And I'm going to spend a day, half a day at a school and half a day myself for work mostly, but it does tie into our kids because that's who I work with. I'm going to spend half the day, I'm working on getting a range right now at the juvenile facility. Okay, so I can come back here with our troubled youth and kind of say, hey, you don't like rules, these are the rules they give you, these are the consequences they give you, and it's hard to get around their rules, kind of thing. And the school I'm looking to go into is PGSS. They have a very similar program to what's running at Dr. Kearney for their alternate group kind of thing, but it runs right from grade 8 to grade 12 in the same building. And I've talked to a couple people, Mike Ferranges, that teaches up here, used to work with it, and Wendy Polnick, I don't remember her. Yeah. She is in a different building, but she's worked with it before, and her and my wife are friends, so she got a hold of her and told her I was going down for it. So, I mean, the in-person thing, for me, that was a good contact to make, and I went to Cheryl and I said, this is what I'm looking at doing. And I said, yeah. She said, well, how are you gonna get around? I said, well, I gotta figure that one out. She's like, well, I'll take care of you. Hey, she's like, anything you need, let me know. So, I mean, she was great about it. The presentations, I enjoyed most of them. I won't say I didn't enjoy any of them. The setup of the building, the rooms kind of thing was a little annoying at times.
Yeah.
The noise. I mean, there was some good presentations. There was several that, I was right into listening to, and it was good.
I I really appreciated the two speakers that spoke from their experiences, ex-students that,
Yeah.
however they moved on, I really felt they resonated a lot with me, maybe because I have post-secondary girls right now.
You're talking about Natalie and that?
And I thought, and they all had those little blurbies of quick one-timer sentences that kind of stuck with me, and I was thinking, pretty much both of them said that failure is part of the path to success, and I thought that is one thing to,
That's a powerful lesson.
that's a good one for anybody at any kind of stage in life, so I really appreciate it.
I could have listened to more of those. I really enjoyed those. Those were powerful. Especially the liberal arts, mix it in with your technology. I thought that was fantastic. That's a message that I've been telling my kids, and I mean, I can't tell you how many people I told the story about, you know, these two speakers all week long. It's been a great experience.
So for me, I really, like, obviously the theme of the conference was really about, they didn't say so, but truth and reconciliation. There's lots of talk about the Indigenous education and just truth and reconciliation, which has just been a word that I've been throwing around for years. And it's only been really probably in the last year that I've really started, what does that mean? Like everybody's asking. And so I really appreciate the speakers who get up and tell their personal stories, their truth, because we have to, and then we had a big conversation about this just privately at a table one night. If you don't hear the truth, you can't have the reconciliation. So the government, I think, tried to push for the reconciliation, and I think everybody wants us to hear the truths first, and they're awful truths. They're sad, they're terrible, but I don't think you can have one without the other, and I've been thinking about that a lot myself personally, and then that's kind of what all those speakers were saying. And then, you know, sometimes I just think we do things because it's what you do. Like, you know, our first order of business call to order acknowledgement that today's meeting is being held within the traditional territory of the Dene-Zaa and the Treaty 8. So what is the Dene-Zaa and what is Treaty 8? I have no idea, but I would say this at the beginning of this meeting. So is that just just doing what you're supposed to do to appease people, or is it truly truth and reconciliation? And you likely do know what Dene-Zaa and Treaty 8 are. If I ever had to say this at the beginning of the meeting, I would want to learn before I say it.
Necessarily before.
Right.
But I guess to build on what you're saying, I'm coming away with, not just from that, but from other things about really thinking about what.
And you can tell when somebody has, and you can tell when somebody's just doing it because it's what you do now.
Yeah.
And then you can say, well, I did my part, right? And then you can tell when people are sincere. Like Stephanie is very sincere. You know, she's learning a language and she talks about it all the time. She's very invested in Indigenous education, and you can tell those people who are saying it sincerely. And I think the Indigenous people can tell when it's just what you do, and then when you're doing it because you want to be doing it. So that was my big takeaway. That's the long and short of it.
Stephen.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was there sort of as staff. It was a conference for trustees. A couple of things stuck out for me. One was the speaker from Calgary who created the electric car. She talked about breaking down in front of a farm, and Madeline probably already alluded to this, where they would get help. I couldn't help but think that if she had broken down, and I think I mentioned this to Madeline, if she had broken down in Fort St. John, she would have left there with probably a winning car. Just because of the creativity and the ingenuity in our area.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they fabricate stuff out of nothing here. And so what she was describing and the other speaker were quite frankly describing a lot of the people we work with in this area. So I was actually kind of thankful for that.
I'm looking at
Yeah.
Oh, and
How's dinner?
she cost $7,500 for 45 minutes, so I don't think we're going to be bringing it in. Right?
That girl? What is she, like 21, did she say?
Sorry, the one, the astronaut. The one that wanted to be-
Astronaut, right, no, okay.
Yeah, $7,500 for 45 minutes.
She obviously had somebody that helped her right off the hop properly market herself, whereas our science fair person got taken.
Well, could I add one more thing?
Yeah.
It was clear that her prices were astronomical.
Oh, good
That's it,
one.
we're adjourning immediately.
How long have you been waiting to say that?
Oh,
No way.
I swear, I just thought of it.
She was disqualified.
Ida, she was an astronaut, if you're wondering.
She wanted
She
to.
wanted to
She
be.
wants to be.
You could suck the air out of that room when she was telling a story about her pigment in her hair. You could pull the air out.
For myself, I had just come hot off the tails of BC ASBO, and then I went to BCSTA, and the BCSTA was very still educational. I liked the sessions where if we could hear better, they would have been great. It was like educational speed dating. We just went from room to room. Like we didn't go, the presenters did. I think if they could have executed that in a more siloed way, that it would have been more meaningful, but moving to the front helped.
Definitely.
And again, the themes of failure, I just love that, because we need to just have, not constant failure, but we see just understanding that we are only human, and as long as you learn from your mistakes, then you're going to move forward. So those were very meaningful. That was very meaningful to me too.
I can jump in and go back to that one. We can get our teachers to teach our kids it's okay to make mistakes and fail. Not, not fail the class, but make mistakes and learn from
Take
it.
risks. Trustee or Chair Helen, did you bring up when the women were all brought to the stage as leaders of each of the organization? So can I add that one?
Yeah, I was gonna, go for it.
Or were you gonna do that?
No,
Have you
go for it. No, but that's
Oh, go
okay.
ahead.
I wasn't done,
No,
and I was gonna bring it
sorry.
up, but you stole.
Oh,
mine.
you brought it down.
No, go ahead. No,
Yeah,
Helen.
I'm interested, somebody.
Stop fighting over it.
Do it quickly, because I
I
gotta
was
go.
going to say that the concept of moving back to in-person was just, I know I'm an in-person learner, and I know how bad my listening habits have got on Zoom, because suddenly you're where there's people and it's a whole different kind of listening. What these guys are speaking to is Stephanie. God love her, because she puts her staff through all kinds of things, just kind of did this weird and wonderful, where she called all these people up to the stage, and I really had to stop and think about it. All of the people right now for the BCSTA, BC ASBO, Superintendents Association, Ministry are all women. She called all of these leaders up to the stage for all of these major organizations, and we hit the stage where they're all women. And that would not have happened 5 years ago.
That's awesome.
It was quite interesting. Like you, I really liked the robotics presentation, and I don't know, somehow I inadvertently sent Angela a picture today, and there was that concept in that presentation of the wild problem, and I was wicked problem, that's what it is, the wicked problem. And I've been thinking about wicked problems and how we've actually as a board had a wicked problem turned over to us that we sort of maybe resolved tonight. One of the things, I know I still haven't given up my concept of classroom, because I had to come back to Carlene and talk to her about the concept that we had an Aboriginal presenter who left an Aboriginal drawing, and all of the concept of presenters filling it in. Now, I don't think that got materialized the way they did, because they couldn't leave it out in the room, but for some of her presentations for Indigenous communities, wouldn't it be neat to get a local artist to make a local area scene, that at some of our meetings and things, people were given the same opportunity to fill in. So that was one of my takeaways. I thought it was a wonderful idea. Didn't quite get where they wanted it to, but would be something that I would steal and use again. Borrow, I guess would be the right word. All right.
One more, sorry. It sunk in probably later on that night, next day, but the hummingbird theory, I always say to people I work with in that, it's one step forward, one step back, kind of thing. Takes one step at a time. Okay? And the theory with the hummingbird was the one drop at a time kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I literally, like the Monday when I went back to the school, I did visit a class I work with. I bring that book with me. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, it's kind of what I say, just in different words, kind of thing. Right? And it was kind of enlightening.
It's kind of funny because I've used that book before and all of a sudden I'm sitting there listening and going, can you hear that? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Of course, you all know I didn't go to this because of prior commitments and stuff. But Nicole, you brought something up that I think that as trustees that sit on previous boards, we forget about the new trustees. We forget about the history that we have in the district. And when you brought up about when we do our traditional lands, say, and Bill, I'm sure you were on the board at the time that we decided to do this. We went through a series of having the Aboriginal, like Pat Johnson came and taught us about what it meant to be traditional lands, why we had both, not just the Denizal, why we had Treaty 8 put in there. And I think that we forget that we went through this process and we saw some history. And I think that's something that maybe when you have a new board, that's something you should have again, some history about like why we do it, because I know the board that sat here at the time, we really struggled, well, what are we going to say and why are we going to say it? So when you said that, that really resonated to me that, yeah, you know, it's something that as a trustee on the board at the time, we did that, but we forgot about, you know, the new trustees.
That was several years ago too.
Yeah, and it was quite, like, it wasn't something that we chose to do on a spur of a moment thing. We probably took 6-7 months to decide on what we were going to say and whether it was just going to be Donald's Day or if it was going to be with the Treaty 8 as well. And we had numerous people come in and speak to us on it. So I think that, you know, it's something that we should remember in history that new people need to hear that as well.
So for November, December of next year kind of thing, we probably should book her to come in and give a little, almost like a framework presentation kind of thing, if there's going to be new people here.
Well, and
I might
think-
just point out a future item on your agenda here, which is Board Pro D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I'm just saying there might be other mechanisms for this that don't necessarily have to be part of the board meeting.
No, and
Yeah.
the-
Oh, yeah.
I
I'm just
mean,
kind
one of
of
the
looking
things,
at new ones.
one of the things that was kind of nice was I've heard the concept of truth, I've heard the concept of reconciliation, and I'm trying to sort out what they mean for me. But some of those speakers, yes, there's a personal meaning for those terms, but there's also sort of a consensus within our Indigenous population as to what those terms mean. And hooking into those definitions was important for me. It's just one of those pieces.
I actually thought the little twist, not twist, but change truth to reconciliation,
Yeah.
I felt was interesting.
What, sorry?
Because the one speaker said he actually doesn't like the term truth and reconciliation. He'd prefer it if it were truth to reconciliation. And I thought, yeah.
Right.
So we all, in terms of doing this and bringing it up and talking about it, I think there's value added to our work as trustees by attending the academy and coming back. And having more people go allows us to piggyback and know that I meant wicked when I was said wild, because wicked wouldn't come to me, so. Okay, BCPC, anything to report here?
Not in the public meeting.
Not in public. Board Pro D, we said we would take a look at that after we got back from Academy, once we saw what was presented at Academy. So Nicole, you and I will talk further on
Yes, we should get something going.
Correspondence, I attached the FOIPA amendments letter as correspondence simply because, yes, there was royal assent on November the 25th, and it hasn't been changed since 2011. And I know it will be another piece that adds exponentially to the workload of our staff. Coming soon to you. Changes. And then I slipped in there under 12.2. I just opened this. It's from Terry Moring from the BCTF. It's the BCTF's education funding brief for 2022. I haven't looked at it, but I will circulate it and make it available to anybody that wants to see it. I'll look first of all and see if there's a website that gives it to you, and I'll circulate that. The full text is available on their website, so I'll circulate the website so that people can follow up with taking a look at that. I don't think we have any unfinished business. We don't think we have any new business. So it's Michelle's turn. She's waited. Oh, Michelle.
Thank you. So just as a little bit of information, Pat Jensen and Charmaine Chrétien and the Mary Tremaine and Josie Gauthier, Jessica Dimitruk, and myself, we are working on planning our Indigenous Day. It's a non-instructional day for April 22nd, 2022. So I'd like to invite the board to that. It's going to be probably like a hybrid. We're not sure what's going to happen, if we can have it all in person or how it's going to look by April. We're hoping that it will. But you're talking about the Deneza, and there is a book called Where Happiness Dwells. And our social justice committee purchased a number of these for teachers to read. And Madam Chair, I would like to donate this book to the board to pass around, if that would be okay. Actually, I have two, so
What I'm gonna say, Michelle, is a number of us have it already, so I'll see who might not have it. We went out to the Doig, and they shared some copies with us, so we'll figure out who doesn't have a copy.
I don't have one.
Make sure they have access.
Okay, so I will pass it through the school mail to you, Trustee Gillis, okay? So if anybody else, Madam Chair, if you could let me know.
I will.
As well, I've got two extra copies, so I'd love to get it into your hands.
Trustee Scott Moncrief.
Perfect. So I'll drop those off, or Mary will drop them off at the board office. And I think you've got an area where you pick up mail, correct? Yeah. So very good. That's a really good discussion. I really enjoyed that today. I don't have really anything to report other than to say we all deserve a break. You deserve a break.
You deserve a break today. Yep.
Yeah, let's start. We could break out in song, but thank you for the work that you do for students and staff in School District 60. I'd echo what Trustee Snow said around, the working relationship that we have, which is really positive. And thank you for sharing that. I appreciated hearing that as well. So that's all that I have. So, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and enjoy your time with your family. And that's all that I have.
Same to you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Right, so we can move down, and all that I will request is that our in-camera motion be brought forward to the regular agenda with a mover and a seconder. Moved by Bill, seconded by Ida, all in favor? All right, and I will do the requisite follow-up on that. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Bill, seconded by David, all in favor? Okay.
Merry Christmas, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody for signing the cards for me.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Helen.
Hear somebody getting this, just.
I will. I actually have to tell you, I have a much greater I knew